Deity meditation is one of the cornerstones of Tantra. Without it, you can still practice certain parts of it, but it'll not be complete. One thing to clearly remember here is that deities are seen as abstract ideas and archetypes, not as some sort of divinities sitting up in the sky listening to our futile prayers. All deities represent certain force of nature, a specific energy form. Each deity has his or her own mantra, form, and method of worship. These are necessary because only then you can connect with that specific energy. You can't just use mantra of Savitri to invoke the Norse goddess Freya. They're totally different energies. Many in Hinduism argue that since all come from the same energy source, all gods are essentially same. Well, it might be true on a very fundamental level, but it's not at all true on a practical level. You may have your father's DNA, but does that mean you're literally your father? Of course not. Just like each individual is different, even though we all come from the same source, so are the deities. Each deity represents a path for the seeker. By invoking that deity, you become one with it. You don't pray to it for stuff, you become the deity. But you can't just randomly choose a deity and start worshiping it, nor can you choose one because it has been worshipped by your forefathers. Ordinary people can do that, but as seekers, we can't. We must only invoke the gods that chooses us. To do this, you must study various cultures and keep learning about different gods. At first, you may feel just a little bit of curiosity about a deity, so you read about it more and more. Then you learn its mantra, imagery, and methods of worship. It's a continuous process. To give you an example, I've been a total atheist before I began meditation, but still, I found the Egyptian god Set interesting. The introduction was very superficial, via a video game. I was totally irreligious, so I never gave it much thought at the time. But when I did start meditation, he was the first god that came to my mind. So I read everything I could about him, learned the occult methods of his invocation, self-initiate myself, and began practicing. Over the years, I've invoked many other deities. Oftentimes, I completely stop satanic invocations. But I've seen again and again, I come back to him. So when a deity chooses you, you can't just escape. If you're connected to an energy field, you cannot simply break it up. Same thing happened with another deity, Tiamat. She's known in different cultures in many different names: Leviathan, Nidhogg, Apophis, Kausarpa, and many others. She represents chaos in its most raw form. She has been the feminine principle in my practice. So as you can see, I'm strongly attuned to chaotic forces of nature. Several times I tried invoking Horus, Buddhist gods, and many other gods of order. It worked for a time, but something just didn't click. Maybe they'll work fine for others, but I cannot connect with them much. So you must figure out which deity is calling you, and you can only figure it out after working with many. So it is a long road, and not an easy one. It'll always begin as a superficial curiosity from which it'll develop into a bond that not even death can break. Okay, so now that you have a basic idea about what invocation is, let's see this with an example. This is an invocation of Set I wrote.
Hail Set, Lord of chaos and storms, great adversary, the great teacher, you who grant strength to the brave and terrorize the weak so they may be strong, wielder of the scepter, Lord of the endless desert, dweller of dark caves, hear my call. I
As you can see, it focuses on all aspects of the deity Set Typhon. He is the god of chaos, destruction, desert and war. Now what does it mean to invoke Set? It means that as we invoke his powers, we learn how to use chaos as a way to growth. Instead of being crushed by it, we use the destructive power to get rid of the old habits and bring in the new. Set is the god of movement and change. So with his power, we learn to accept change, which is indeed difficult. You'll always see old people continually complaining about the uncivilized youth, as if they were so perfect. The truth is, their fathers thought exactly the same in them. They keep complaining because they cannot accept change. You see, most people never grow after the age of 21. We simply repeat whatever we learned during that period our whole life. All our habitual patterns or sanskaras are created during this short time period. So you'll often find a 70-year-old man behaving just like teenagers. That's really what they mostly do. The only difference is the 70-year-old has seen life, so he has more or less given up all hope. Whereas the 21-year-old is full of it. He wants to change the world. But soon he learns it's not going to happen. But if you look closely, the 70-year-old thinks exactly the same thing. That's the reason he's complaining about the youth. He too wants to bring a revolution, but he knows he simply can't. So his thought process barely changed over the years. My father had a financially difficult childhood, so that struggle is so deeply ingrained into his psyche that even now, when he's above 70, he still spends next to nothing for his own pleasure, because that sanskara that was created so long ago never disappeared. The opposite can also happen. Someone who had a difficult past, if he suddenly gets a lot of money, he'll start living an extravagant life. But what really he's doing? He too is reacting to his past, only in an opposite manner. By invoking Set or other similar forces, we gain the power to completely get rid of the bondage of the past. We learn to live in the moment and explore new possibilities. Of course, the memories remain, but the strong attachment to it disappears. Set is also the compeller. He compels the mind to our control. And the mind is everything. One who has understood the nature of his mind has understood the world, because the world is the mind. Mind is the microcosm, while the world is the macrocosm. So by invoking the power of Set, we inevitably become him. It is not blind faith or prayer. It is a conscious process of spiritual growth. Now this was only one example. There can be many, many more. If you invoke a god of wealth, so you are attracting money by becoming him. If you invoke a goddess of beauty, you're only making yourself more attractive. This is the main reason of invocation. However, this is only the superficial part. Deep down, all deities come from the same source, the great void, and so all deities are fundamentally empty. So when we invoke them, we too are essentially going towards that ultimate goal automatically. Otherwise, one might say that everything I discussed so far can be done without invocation too. So many successful people do it. They don't even know anything about gods. They might even be atheists. So where's the real difference? The difference is, we tantrics utilize those superficial qualities to ultimately reach the supreme non-quality. The outward quality is only the way. Set ultimately destroys our own delusion and all things that binds us, to the point where nothing else remains. And that's when you come face to face with the truth, and in the end the ego self itself is destroyed. Same is true for all the gods. You have to keep your mind focused on the supreme truth above all else, and the deity itself will guide you. Of course, utilize the outer qualities the gods bring, but you must always, in the end, try penetrate the core of the archetype. Now there's another kind of invocation which we may call a hymn. Here is an example of one.
From the deep where no light is found, a silent stillness all around. Before the stars began to be, your silent presence guided me. The suns may rise and fade away, but you are brighter than the brightest day. All fleeting form deceives. And though the world may turn its face to chase the light in time and space, your hidden truth I come to find, to leave all mortal fear behind. So I bow down and kneel to thee, for you give the true sight to see.
A hymn is usually written as a devotional way to praise the God. Especially, we do it praise the ultimate reality, which I often call the shining darkness. It is so great that all we can do is marvel at it. And a hymn is an expression of that great wonder. Again, this is not a pitiful slave mentality where we just pray to it like something external. Of course, the great void is within us all. Think of it this way. The great void is like an ocean, and we are like tiny bottles filled with the waters from the ocean. So we naturally have the same fundamental quality of the great ocean. But does that mean the bottle has literally become the ocean? Of course not. So naturally we can bow to the Absolute, even though we know with direct knowledge that we and the Supreme are one and the same. This is the paradox, and the world is so full of it. But with the help of your gods, also called Ishta Devata, you can look beyond the apparent contradiction and find the hidden, occult truth.